Hey, Derek Hagan here. I'm a financial psychology expert specializing in meaning in life and mindfulness, here with another Meaningful Money memo, where we're going to talk about conflicting values. So, personal values, these are the things that represent what's important to you, and they can become kind of the lens through which we view our decisions. If we run our decisions through our values, then we are expressing our values. Then we are living our lives in alignment with what we believe is important to us. It's important for us to live in alignment with our values. So if we run all of our decisions through our values, then we are partaking in valued living. Now, sometimes we don't just have one value. We have two different values or three different values. We have many values. And when we make a decision, say over here on the left value, we can make a decision in alignment with that value. But we have another value that we can make a decision in alignment with. Where we tend to get into trouble is when these values overlap. And when these values overlap, we might call these conflicting values. So if I have a value of, say, my profession or educating people, but I also have a value of family, and I have a speaking arrangement on the same time as a holiday or a family gathering, I'm torn between these two values. Right? So this one event, this one decision hits two values, and I can only choose one value or the other, or a third value. It's not just one or the other. So these conflicting values are when we have a decision to make, and it's going to hit one or the other. We have to choose between these conflicting values, and this is where we see ambivalence. This is where we feel like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. In the bad case, but we could be choosing between two great alternatives as well. But this is where ambivalence is. I want both of these things at the same time. Now, there's a school of thought that says these conflicting values are an illusion. And they're illusions because we can think of these being in two-dimensional space. Right? So when we add a third value, or a third dimension rather, when we add a third dimension called our priorities, then we see that these two values are not overlapping anymore. Now, at the bottom here, you can see it looks like a value conflict when it's projected onto two-dimensional space. When we ignore priorities and we just say simply, I have all these values, yes, of course, you're going to see conflicts. But when you take a look at the priority dimension, when you take a look at the motivational dimension, you see that the conflicts go away when you prioritize your values. Now, the priority of your values is going to differ depending on the situation. So I may have a top value and then a close second value, maybe a third value, and this is my default mode. I really strongly, highly value this first thing. If that didn't exist, I would really strongly value the second thing the most, and then I got this really strong third value. And in most situations, like situation A here, that might be perfectly fine. But sometimes we'll find ourselves in situation B, and in situation B, value one has to take a seat. It has to step aside for value two in this particular situation. And there might be a third situation, C, where value three is the most important priority. Right? So the prioritization of your values is going to differ depending on the situation you find yourself in. And being able to recognize what feels like a value conflict, using that as an invitation to prioritize your values, will help you live more meaningfully. So think about your values, recognize when there's value conflict, use that as an opportunity to prioritize your values, and you can partake in meaning and valued living in this way. You get one life. Live intentionally.